Hey everybody, Seth Campbell here with the new Segue Says podcast. Well, I'm in the other side of the apartment and I'm holding a guitar, so that can really only mean one thing. It's at long last time for another guitar segue. It's been a very long time. As a matter of fact, the last time I filmed a guitar segue, it was before I had begun to upload the backlog of videos from my Facebook page up to YouTube. So, for all intents and purposes, the last time I recorded a guitar segue was before the podcast properly began. And the reason there are so few is that I'm not that great a guitar player. Okay, I'd like to think I'm getting better, but it's difficult for me to get one song really well on a guitar. A segue requires at least two, so it can be a strain. But a lot of segues. There are a bunch of segues I can do on guitar, but I also do them on piano, and in my opinion they work better on piano, so that's where I tend to illustrate them. This one, however, works much better on the guitar. Now these are two songs that are heavily based in finger picking, so that tends to be my weak point, so hopefully I can fake my way through it. Two songs are Looking Forward by Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young, and Dust in the Wind by Kansas. Two very different spectrums of music here, but stay with me. Looking Forward was the title track off the album, Looking Forward, by Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. It's a really great song. Todd Marston, my good friend, introduced this song to me. So Todd, this one's for you. There's a great video on YouTube of Neil Young playing this solo, and I very much recommend checking that out because obviously I can't reproduce four voices, so the Neil Young solo version is the one I'm basing this video off of. Or my rendition, excuse me. But it's a very sort of relaxed song. The interesting part about it is that the chorus melody and lyrics they feel like they're a couple beats behind. It's as if there's a two beat bar at the beginning and the end of the chorus. But as a matter of fact, it could be argued, and I would argue, that it's just a very back-heavy phrasing for my more musically inclined friends. And we'll get to that in a minute. Now, in case you know the song and need a refresher, or if you don't know it, here's a verse and chorus of Looking Forward. Morning has come, the first rays of sun shining through the window pane. Songs fill the air, there's no singer there, just an old wooden guitar playing. Looking forward, all that I can see, good things happening to you and to me. I'm not waiting for times to change. I wanna live like a free roaming soul on the highway of our love. So that's one time through, and if you're paying attention to what I'd said earlier, you'll notice that the chorus seems to be a bit delayed. And what it sounds like is as if the one is on looking forward, all that I can see are good things happening to you and to me. Obviously my exaggerated head movements are meant to illustrate the one, but what I think this one is, and again it could be argued either way, but I think the one is actually ahead of it, so the phrasing is in the back heavy portion, so the second half of each rhythmic phrase, and the chords are also lined up that way, so that the one would be here. Just an old wooden guitar playing. One. Looking forward, all that I can see. One. The good things happening to you and to me. 1. I'm not waiting for times to change, because then it's 1. I wanna live like a free Roman soul on the highway of our love. There are very few songs I can think of that do this, and it's only slightly relevant to the segue. But it will become relevant, so hopefully that made sense. It's a little difficult to figure out. My best advice, if you're trying to understand what I'm saying, if you don't care, really, don't bother. But if you're interested to get what I'm saying, I recommend listening to the original version, and if you have a metronome or a metronome app, just set it on 4/4 to go 1, 2, 3, 4 the whole way, and look at where the 1 is through the entire song, because it's really a fascinating construction that they've managed to create. Now, Dust in the Wind is a song that I really like. There's a special place in my heart, and I'll explain why in a minute. I know a few people like it. Still, I know a lot of people liked it back in the day. I know a lot of people can't stand it anymore. Which, I understand that it was played a lot. But I still think if a song is good enough, it's unfortunate that a song gets overplayed and gets a bad reputation. Even though the song itself is good, people don't like it anymore because they've heard it too much. And that's my theory on songs like I Want to Know What Love Is by Foreigner, or even Freebird, is these are pretty good songs. You know, they might not be the best songs ever written, but they're pretty good. And the trouble is, no one can stand them anymore because they've been inundated with them. But I think they're good songs, and that's why I like to keep playing them, because I know there are a few people out there who still like them. Now, Dust in the Wind, everybody knows by the first finger-picking melody by the guitar. You might not know it by my finger-picking melody, but that's because I'm not very good. But this is how it goes. I close my eyes only for a moment, and the moment's gone. All my dreams pass before my eyes, a curiosity, dust in the wind. All we are is dust in the wind. Same old song. And that's the next verse. Somewhat ironic that Same Old Song is the lyric to a song that people have heard too many times, but that's beside the point entirely. Now, I have a funny history with this song because I didn't know the original Kansas version for many years. I knew this because the Peruvian folk group I used to play with all the time, Inca Sun, did a cover of it on one of their cover albums. It's an instrumental version. Pan flutes taking the melody, and I knew it and loved it for many years before I had even heard the original. And but if I could just take a detour for one quick minute and show you, there's one chord change in the Inca Sun version that I really like that's not in the original version. I like to play in my versions. Is instead of dust in the wind, all we are is dust in the wind. So it's D, G, A minor. Is they replace that G with an F. So it's dust in the wind. All we are is dust in the wind. And it's a really great effect, particularly on the very last chorus. All we are is dust in the wind. Becomes, and all we are is dust in the wind. It's a great sort of harmonic trick there that I really like. So I recommend checking out that version if you have the time. It's very interesting to hear that and many other songs on those cover albums played in a totally different style than you'd expect. But here's the segue portion of the video, which is what, of course, this is all about. Is Dust in the Wind is in C, Or at least it starts in C. I mean, it's mainly based in A minor, but it starts in C. So it's just around this pattern, and looking forward is actually in G, but it ends in C, because the very last part of the song is the first verse. Songs fill the air, there's no singer there, just an old wooden guitar playing. It ends just on guitar playing. But because of the bizarre timing thing and the way the chorus seems to be delayed, when you would normally play the verse into the chorus, there's an extra couple of beats of C major there. So, old wooden guitar playing. So you can use what would normally be the beginning of the chorus as the end of the last verse to really establish C as a center. And then at some point you switch the finger picking from the looking forward pattern to the dust in the wind pattern, and that would sound something like this. Morning has come and the first rays of sun shining through the window pane. Songs fill the air, but there's no singer there, just an old wooden guitar playing. And you have to speed up a little bit for Dust in the Wind. And that's why I like to leave a little bit of space, what would be part of the chorus, so you're not speeding up underneath the lyrics. Because what you could do, and I did the first couple times I tried this, was just an old wooden guitar playing. I mean, which works, and it's up to you which way you want to do it. But if you have that extra few bars, it gives the listener and the player time to breathe a minute just before making the switch, whereas that's very sudden, and you have to be ready for it as a player at least. So there's a couple of ways to do it, but I like to add, a few extra bars. Wooden guitar playing. Now, the one way you could make the fast one a little smoother is to use sort of open chords as opposed to a finger picking pattern on the last run through, which would be songs fill the air, but there's no singer there, just an old wooden guitar playing. Slow down the ending a little bit as I did there, just to make it even clearer that, okay, downbeat, ready to switch. And so that's that one. It's as I said, my guitar playing isn't quite as polished as I'd like it to be. I'm still learning, but hopefully it's just enough to give you a good idea of how the Segue works. So thanks so much for watching. In all likelihood, I'll be back to the piano next week. I will see you then.